get started?
Yep, thanks, Eric. Okay, let's get into it here. All right. So as an overview, the County and Independent Fairs Grant Program was created to provide $10 million in grants to Ohio County and Independent Agricultural Societies for the purpose of increasing fair access or economic impact. Eligible applicants must be a county or independent agricultural society as described in ORC 1711-01 or 1711-02. In addition, the society must hold an annual exhibition to promote the agricultural interests of the concerned county or the state, which is a long way of saying a fair. Program funds can be used toward capital expenditure projects at the project location. Eligible costs must be incurred after the date of application submission and may include, but are not limited to, new or upgraded machinery and equipment, technology improvements, costs for property or structure improvements, including new construction or enhancements and repairs or renovations to existing buildings or assets, road or access improvements, upgrades to electrical or sanitation systems, grandstand purchases or renovations, ADA accommodation improvements, and finally, additional assets with a useful life of more than 1 year. So think fixed assets, not consumables. Moving on to the application. Applications opened March 1st and will be accepted through April 30th at 4 p.m. The application is available by clicking the Apply Now button on the program webpage listed in the first bullet point there, or you can navigate directly to the application portal by using the link listed in the second bullet point. Once you open the application portal, you'll see a login request. If you have a login, you can enter it here. My guess is most of you don't if you haven't accessed the application already. So you'll need to click Not a Member below the login button in the lower right corner. You'll follow the steps to register an account. Then you'll need to re-navigate to the login page and enter your registered email and password. Once logged in, you'll come to the welcome page. This is where you'll enter your organization's federal tax ID number and click Continue. Which will bring up the applications list. It should say no applications, no previous applications. Please click Add Application. I'm assuming that most of you don't have a current application in process. So you'll click the plus new application button, which will take you to the application itself. So the application is set up with 3 tabs across the top of the page. You'll see applicant information, project information, and certification. And then at the bottom of each page, you'll have an option to cancel, save, or save and next. The first tab is the applicant information tab. This section requests some basic information on the applicant and its related contacts, the FEIN number, the name of the agricultural society, mailing and physical addresses, email address, Ohio pays or supplier ID number, contact information, and the fairground ownership structure. A quick note on the Ohio pays number. This number is assigned and managed by the Office of Budget and Management's Shared Services Division. It's a 10-digit number. It usually starts with 4 or 5 zeros. It used to be called the supplier ID number. So if you're familiar with that, it's the same number, just a different name. Most of you should have one of these. If you've received state funding in the past, then you should already have one. But if you're not sure what your number is, or if you have a number, there is contact information for OBM shared services listed directly on the application. Reach out to them and they'll be able to assist you in finding or determining whether you have a number. So once the application information tab is completely filled in, you will click Save and Next, which will take you to the project information tab.
Hey, Jason, can I interrupt you real quick?
You may.
With a question. Once
Yes.
An application is started, are they able to return to an existing application?
Yes. Yeah. So at the bottom where it has cancel, save, and save and next, you can save that at any time, log out. So say you get to the Ohio Pays number, you don't know whether you have an Ohio Pays number. You need to contact OBM to figure it out. You just click save. You can log out. When you log back in, all the information that you previously entered will be there. And then you can continue with the application. Thank you, Eric. So once the applicant information is entered, you'll go to the project information tab. This is where you'll add the details on your project or projects. It is acceptable to have multiple projects at one site location. They do need to be listed on the same application though. So for each of these sections, the project narratives, economic impact, proposed budget, and timeline narrative, if you have more than one project, you would need to add information for each of those projects within the same categories. So the project narratives and economic impact, this is a written description of the project or projects on which you plan to use the grant funds, and also a description of how the project or projects will increase fair access and economic impact. Then we have a proposed budget. This should include estimated costs and cost descriptions for each applicable budget category. Again, if multiple projects, they should be combined into one budget. So if you're filling this out and you have some road improvements that you want to do and a structure that you want to build, both of those costs should be included with descriptions, and that should give you one total estimated expenses at the end. And then the last section in this tab is the timeline narrative, just an anticipated timeline for completion of the project or projects. Again, there's a save option here. You can save and come back to it at any time. Once completed, you'll click Save and Next, which brings you to the certification tab. This is the final step in the application process. All you need to do is read the certification and agree to it by typing your name, your title, and clicking Submit Application. Once you successfully submit an application, you should receive a confirmation email. It would be sent from this address here, County and Independent Fairs at development.ohio.gov. And that puts you into the review process. So once applications close on April 30th at 4 p.m., development will review all applications for eligibility and accurateness, and will determine the award amounts and ultimately approve the awards. Once the award is approved, the contact on record will receive a notification of the award, along with detailed instructions on how to accept the terms and conditions, which looks like this. Basically, you'll need to log back into the application using the same login information that you used to access it originally. Once logged back in, you'll see a fourth tab along the top titled Agreement. You'll click on that tab and it'll show your terms and conditions. The terms and conditions basically act as your grant agreement, so you want to read them closely. And then you are required to accept the terms and conditions, again, by typing your name and title and clicking on Submit Grant Agreement. Like I said, this serves as your grant agreement. The terms and conditions must be accepted in order for the funds to be dispersed.
So Jason, am I correct that after we complete our review process, we will notify applicants via email
Correct.
about their award and award amounts, and then at that time they should log back into their application and they'll see this new agreement tab for them to review and complete, correct?
That is correct, yes. And in the confirmation email that you receive, there are step-by-step directions with a link. You can just click the link, fill out your, put in your login information, log in, and then you'll be there. You'll click on that agreement tab and review them and accept them. Once the terms and conditions are accepted, the awarded funds will be distributed as a one-time upfront payment with a reconciliation requirement. So what does a reconciliation requirement mean? At the completion of the project, the awardee must submit supporting documentation to reconcile the award amount. So whatever grant funds you receive, you'll be required to keep track of what those grant funds are being spent on and submit supporting documents to prove those expenses. So supporting documents should be in the form of paid invoices or receipts with coinciding canceled checks or bank statements. Again, basically, anytime you use grant funds, you'll need to have those documents at the end of the project. Once all of the grant funds are used, you'll submit those documents to us and we'll reconcile the award for you. The program does have a reporting requirement. Awardees are required to submit a final report detailing the completion of the project as outlined in the application. The final report will be given to you by us. We'll develop a form or something for you to fill out that's still in the works. But all you'll need to do is complete it and return it to us upon project completion. This is a quick overview. Eric, do we have questions?
Yeah, I'll run through some of these, Jason. So one of the questions we got was in the section where we asked for the Ag Society info about the fairgrounds, owning the fairgrounds, but they're owned by the county. Is it okay to put the county owning the fairgrounds in the application?
Yes.
I think the answer to that is yes. Okay. We've got a couple of timing questions, and I'll sort of generalize those, but the gist of it is, how soon do we anticipate making awards after the April 30 application deadline? And I think our response to that is we will try to move through those as quickly as possible. Some of that will depend on any potential follow-up that we would have to do with applicants to get clarification on the application and how we review those. So I would anticipate probably in the 30 to 60 day range will be our timeline for review and making those awards. Let's see, what else do we have? It says, what do we do if we submitted a grant application but did not get a confirmation email? If you did not get a confirmation email and you think that you submitted the application correctly, I would send an email to our general program inbox to ask us to verify that. We would have the ability to look in the system and check that. That inbox is county and independent fairs at development.ohio.gov. So send us a quick email and we can do a check to confirm that application was submitted. I would also potentially check your spam just because it's going through our system. A lot of times those confirmation emails will end up in a junk or spam folder. Another question we got was, does the project, excuse me, this keeps moving. Does the project need to be completed prior to receipt, I'm assuming, of the funds is what was meant here. And so, Jason, you want to talk a little bit about the funding mechanism and how that's going to operate?
Yeah, so it's an upfront payment. Once approved and you accept your terms and conditions, it'll be an upfront payment. You'll be able to get started on whatever project you have in the works. And then on the back end, you'll submit receipts and invoices, supporting documentation showing us what you spent the funds on. Does that cover the question, Eric?
Yes, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So minimum and maximum amount that should be applied for, it's really up to the project and the applicant. So if you have a project that you want to do that is, 50,000, then I would apply for the 50,000 project. If you have projects that are, 600,000, you can apply for the 600,000. So it's really up to you. We're going to go through our grant funding mechanism the way we did the calculation tool set in the program guidelines to try to distribute these grant funds evenly as we're required to under the legislation. But really apply for what you have project-wise and what you have funding to complete. One question maybe for you, Jason, is what are you looking for in the cost description? Can you give an example?
I would say we don't need a whole lot of detail. We don't need a line item of every cost that you plan to spend, but just a generalization of the generalized description of the costs within that category. Not sure that completely answers the question, but
yeah. And if anybody has specific questions or follow-up questions, obviously you can email our general inbox and we will respond to those there.
Yes, if you're ever worried about whether a cost is eligible or not, reach out to us. We'll take a look, we'll review it, let you know whether it's an eligible cost or ineligible.
All right, thank you. Next question is, how quickly do the projects need to be completed? So we, based off the source of funding for these funds, the projects need to be completed by June 30th, 2026. So that effectively gives a 2-year project period for folks to complete their project. It's just with the source of these funds and where they're coming from, we have to show that they've been used by that timeline. So again, June 30th, 2026. Let's see. Do we have to wait until we receive confirmation to start a project? And so the answer to that is no. I believe what we have in there is that projects can start once an application is submitted. That's when you can start and incur eligible costs to be reimbursed, or not reimbursed, to be utilized against the grant, is when the application is submitted. So you do not have to wait until you receive approval for those funds. Now, obviously, we won't know the exact amount of grant funds that you will receive, again, because we're going to have to do our formula. So you'll have to proceed sort of at your own risk, so to speak. But you are eligible to start and incur costs once an application is submitted. Let's see. It says, will the entire 10 million be distributed to fairs that apply and approved? Should we apply for more than the 100,000 application? So yes, we will, through our mathematical formula to distribute these evenly, all of the 10 million will be awarded to the applicants. So if you do have projects in excess of the 100,000, we would encourage you to apply for all of those combined project costs. Jason, I'll maybe throw this one your way. Does the person who signs the acceptance agreement need to be the same person who signs the application?
Not necessarily. The person who signs the acceptance agreement needs to be authorized to accept the agreement.
Okay, great, thank you. So let's see, a couple more here. Can we submit multiple projects totaling more than what we expect to be awarded? I think we sort of have covered that. Again, apply for what you have, even if that's in excess of the grant funds. We'll just sort of look for some information on how you anticipate covering those costs. Talked about submission timeline, start of project timeline. General inbox, somebody asked for that information again. So that is the general email information is county and independent fairs at development.ohio.gov. That's also on the program webpage. Is a link to that inbox as well. But that's our general program inbox. So somebody asked about a priority listing of projects. So based on the funding, they may not be able to complete all of the projects. Do they have to prioritize? And we don't really need to see a priority. Apply for what projects you plan on doing. And then based on the funding amount, the applicant will have to determine what projects it can undertake. So I don't think you need to set out a priority list in your application. You know, that'll sort of be based off of the funding that ultimately gets awarded there. Jason, I know prevailing wage was a previous question. Do you want to sort of address the prevailing wage question?
Yeah, we get this one a lot. So funding for this program comes from the state operating budget and does not specifically require prevailing wage. But the grantee is still required to comply with Ohio prevailing wage laws, and they may still apply to the grantee or the project. They just are not specifically required by our program.
Yeah. Yeah, so to sort of add on to that, thank you for that, Jason. The program funds by themselves do not require it, but the project itself still may be required prevailing wage based off of state laws. So that's sort of the answer to that question. Could you please state whether this is reimbursement grant or funded? So this will be an upfront grant, not reimbursement. But we will require reconciliation or I guess evidence of the utilization of the funds for eligible program costs. So somebody asked if this is a yearly grant. Right now, this is a one-time fund that we have set up through the budget that we were given to administer this program. So we cannot tell you whether or not there'll be another round of this program in future years. And then let's see. Jason, is there a way, and I don't know if you know this, so sorry to put you on the spot. If somebody has submitted an application and they have interest in going back and adjusting that application, is there a way or mechanism for them to do that?
Yeah, I would recommend that whoever submitted that reach out to the county and independent fairs at development.ohio.gov email, and we'll work with you to get that done.
Great, thank you. Any other questions? Trying to keep track of them through the chat here. So the question is, do we need 3 estimates for each project? So that's going to be dependent upon your local procurement guidelines and requirements. So we do not require estimates for those project costs, but again, that's going to fall on the local laws and regulations there. But nothing specific. Same with prevailing wage, nothing specifically by our funding that requires it, but it still may be required based on the project. Okay. All right. Again, if you guys have additional questions, please feel free to email the program inbox. Like we said, this webinar will be posted for folks to utilize as a resource. And we're always available and happy to answer questions if you have them. Again, recap on program timeline. We are currently accepting applications now, and that application deadline is April 30 at 4 p.m. So please make sure you're submitting that in advance of that. That will be a hard deadline there. And then I don't know, anything else you want to add, Jason? Anything else you want to cover?
We did record this, so we'll get that up on our website as soon as possible in case anyone wants to, in case anyone missed it or wants to re-review.
Great. All right. Thank you all for your time today, and we look forward to receiving your applications.
Thank you.